Imagine being told that, a medication originally designed just to lower your blood sugar might actually stop you from biting your nails.
Right.
Or curb your urge to drink. And according to some wild new survey data in our stack today, maybe even make you a less violent person.
Yeah, which is just a huge claim.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because I feel like we've been treating GLP-1s, things like semaglutide and tirzepatide, as just simple diet pills.
Right. Or just standard diabetes treatment.
Exactly. But looking at today's deep dive into the sources, taking a GLP-1 is starting to look less like a localized medical treatment and a lot more like installing a massive software update on the entire human body.
That is a really great way to put it. A whole body software update.
Yeah, because we're talking about a systemic rewrite. It's affecting brain chemistry, addictive urges, reproductive health, and even the literal structural composition of our muscles. But, here is the terrifying part about software update.
Oh, there are always bugs.
Right. We're just now discovering all the hidden features and some potentially dangerous bugs in the code.
Yeah, and what's crucial to understand here is that the current enthusiasm, like the massive hype surrounding these medications, it's completely outpacing our comprehensive understanding of their long-term mechanics.
Oh, 100%.
We are in this bizarre transitional phase right now. The medical community is observing systemic whole-body impacts that go far beyond just blood sugar control, which is incredible. But we really have to maintain a strict boundary between what the early data suggests is promising and what rigorous science has actually proven to be factual.
Right, because there's a big gap there.
Huge gap. Because when you start altering the fundamental metabolic pathways of the human body, the stakes are just incredibly high. And the side effects, they can show up in biological systems you wouldn't initially expect at all.
Which actually brings us to the most unexpected system of all. Because to understand the sheer scale of this biological software update, we have to look past the stomach and past the pancreas and look directly at the brain.
The neurological impact is just fascinating.
It really is. So patients on GLP-1s have been talking about the loss of quote-unquote food noise for a while now.
Right.
Those persistent, obsessive thoughts and cravings that just make eating so difficult to control for some people.
Right. It's that constant background chatter.
Exactly. But researchers are now seeing this dampening effect bleed over into other compulsive behaviors.
Yeah.
People are reporting drops in excessive alcohol use. They're stopping repetitive physical habits like severe nail biting. It basically sounds like the drug acts as a pair of noise-canceling headphones for your temptations.
I like that. Noise-canceling headphones.
Yeah.
Because underneath those headphones is a literal dampening of the brain's dopamine and reward pathways.
Oh, wow. So it's a physical change in the brain.
Yes, but it's important to clarify that these medications do not magically delete a habit or erase the temptation from your memory completely. If you are a smoker or a heavy drinker and you encounter a cue, say you walk into your favorite bar,
right,
you still consciously recognize that a drink provides a reward. The memory of that is still there. But the mechanism of the drug intercepts the chemical translation of that cue.
So the urge is just weaker.
Exactly. The intensity of the urge is dialed down at a neurological level. Your brain simply isn't generating that same massive spike in dopamine that creates the fierce chemical motivation to pursue the reward.
So the desire is logically there, but the emergency is gone.
Right. It feels far less urgent. You can just sort of walk away.
That is just wild. We are talking about a drug developed for the endocrine system, fundamentally altering human motivation.
It's revolutionary.
And it gets even more intense when you look at the social implications. There's this 2025 nationally representative survey in our sources.
Ah, yes, the impulsivity survey.
Yeah, so it looked at 831 adults, and 597 of them are current GLP-1 users, while 224 are former users. The researchers were looking at impulsivity, alcohol consumption, and how those specific factors linked to self-reported violence. Now, normally, high impulsivity and alcohol use are strong, reliable predictors of aggressive behavior.
Very strong, yes.
But this survey found that among active GLP-1 users, that link was substantially weaker.
What's fascinating here is how disruptive that finding could be, The implications of a common medication organically lowering aggressive or impulsive physical behavior are just profound.
Yeah.
It really opens up an entirely new frontier for how we might treat severe compulsion in the future.
But, okay, I have to push back on the methodology here for a second.
Sure.
Because looking at the details of that 2025 study, It wasn't a randomized clinical trial.
Right. It was a survey.
Right, a survey of self-reported behavior.
Yeah.
Couldn't this just be a massive correlation versus causation trap?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. If I'm paying out of pocket or actively seeking out a medical treatment plan to improve my weight and health, I'm probably making broader, more positive life choices overall, right?
Right. You're in a self-improvement mindset.
Exactly. Couldn't a weaker link to violence just be a byproduct of someone actively getting their life together?
Yep.
Rather than the GLP-1 molecule biochemically stopping impulsive aggression in their actual brain?
And that analytical skepticism is exactly why the medical community is treating these particular findings with extreme caution.
Okay, so they're aware of the gap.
Very aware. Self-reported behavior in a survey is heavily influenced by a myriad of social, economic, and psychological variables.
Right.
We simply cannot isolate the GLP-1 molecule as the sole active variable when we just ask people how they feel and act on a questionnaire.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A survey points out a pattern. It does not prove a biological mechanism. And this is exactly why these medications are not currently approved by the FDA as general treatments for psychiatric conditions or compulsive behavior or addiction.
So it's basically a massive glaring arrow pointing toward a new area of research, but we shouldn't be, prescribing it for anger management tomorrow.
Exactly. It sets the stage for the next decade of clinical trials. If we can definitively prove in rigorous, placebo-controlled environments that these medications reduce generalized impulsivity and excessive reward-seeking, then yes, they could eventually have carefully defined psychiatric applications.
Wow.
But proving that requires stripping away all those lifestyle variables you just mentioned, and that takes years of controlled study.
Which brings us to an incredible irony, honestly. Yeah, because while these drugs might be lowering impulsive behavior inside the brains of the people taking them, the market hype surrounding them is driving incredibly impulsive consumer behavior.
Oh, absolutely. The market is entirely impulsive right now.
Right. People are not waiting for clinical trials. And that brings us to the experimental frontier. Retatrutide.
Retatrutide. This represents a significant biochemical escalation in this class of drugs.
Yeah, and it's currently in experimental development by Eli Lilly, right?
That's right. And to understand the frenzy surrounding it, you really have to understand the receptor targets. So current blockbuster medications typically act on one, sometimes two, hormone receptors.
Okay.
But retatrutide activates three distinct receptors: GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon.
The sources call it a triple agonist. But what does hitting three targets actually do differently than just hitting one? What's the tangible difference for the patient?
It basically creates a synergistic metabolic effect. So while the GLP-1 component slows digestion and signals fullness to the brain, the GIP specifically targets how the body stores and utilizes fat, which improves insulin sensitivity.
Okay, so you're full and your body is processing fat better.
Right. And then you add the glucagon receptor activation, which actually increases energy expenditure.
Wait, so you aren't just eating less because you feel full.
No.
You're biochemically forcing the body to burn more fuel.
Exactly. The phase 3 clinical studies have produced highly encouraging results regarding efficacy, which is exactly why people are so eager to get their hands on it.
I mean, it sounds like the holy grail of metabolic drugs.
It does, but however, it remains an investigational drug. It is not approved by the FDA. It cannot be legally marketed or sold for human use outside of an authorized clinical trial.
Yet, if you look online right now, it is everywhere.
Everywhere.
You've got medical spas, telehealth businesses, slick-looking websites, all illegally selling what they claim is retatrutide. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure, go for it.
Because if you're a listener who has struggled with severe metabolic disease your whole life, and you see phase 3 results showing unprecedented efficacy by targeting 3 receptors, I completely understand the desperation.
It's very understandable.
Right. So what makes buying this gray market version so much more dangerous than, say, buying an unapproved vitamin supplement or a sketchy herbal remedy online? People do that all the time.
That is a great question. The critical difference lies in the delivery mechanism.
The injection.
Yes. We are talking about injectable products. When you take an unapproved vitamin orally, it has to pass through your digestive system. Your stomach acid and your liver act as a biological buffer.
Okay, yeah.
They're a first-pass filtration system that can often neutralize contaminants before they hit your broader circulation, but injectables completely bypass the body's natural digestive defenses.
Oh.
They go directly into your systemic circulation.
Right, the physical barrier. We take the stomach's acid for granted, but an injectable is basically an unrestricted backstage pass directly into the bloodstream.
Exactly.
That magnifies the risk of a compounding error tenfold.
It amplifies the risk exponentially, really. When people purchase these substances from gray market websites or underground compounding operations, they have zero certainty about the vial's actual contents.
Yeah, who knows what's in there?
You are bypassing sterility regulations completely. A contaminated vial, an incorrect active ingredient, or even just a slight dosing error with a direct injectable can produce immediate life-threatening complications. Like severe systemic infections or sudden hypoglycemic shock.
Wow. Yeah, the sources explicitly warn that just because a website looks professional, that does not equal genuine, safe medication. The FDA and Eli Lilly are practically shouting from the rooftops about this.
They are!
Eli Lilly states clearly that genuine retatrutide is legally available only to participants enrolled in their clinical trials. Full stop.
And beyond the immediate danger of bacterial contamination, there is a fundamental scientific reason we wait for full FDA approval.
Right.
Promising phase 3 results do not guarantee that a drug is universally safe. Rare but severe adverse effects often only become apparent after a medication is tested in much larger, far more genetically diverse populations than those included in early trials.
So you're just being a guinea pig.
Bypassing that process is a massive, unchecked gamble with your entire endocrine system.
Well, and speaking of the endocrine system, if bypassing the digestive system with an injectable is a shock to the body, that makes me think about what has to be the ultimate biological shock, which is pregnancy.
Yes, maternal health is a huge topic here.
What happens when two entirely different endocrine systems, the mothers and the developing fetus, are subjected to these massive metabolic swings? Because fertility clinics are seeing a huge surge of patients using GLP-1s right now.
They are.
Which means we are literally connecting these systemic metabolic changes to the creation of new human life.
It is currently one of the most complex clinical challenges in reproductive medicine today.
I can imagine.
Historically, because early animal research raised some concerns about possible fetal development issues and human data was severely lacking, the traditional medical advice has just been strict avoidance.
Just don't take it.
Right. Doctors enforce a washout period, advising patients to stop taking these medications well before conception, just allowing the drug to fully clear their system.
But human behavior is messy, and people don't always plan their pregnancies perfectly.
Rarely perfectly.
Because of that, we now actually have observational data on women who were exposed to these drugs early in pregnancy.
Yes, the new data is very illuminating.
There's a recent study analyzing 3,572 pregnancies involving women who had a GLP-1 prescription within 90 days before their last menstrual period.
Right.
And they compared the women who kept taking the drug during the first trimester against those who stopped.
Right.
The numbers here are kind of tense. The risk of the pregnancy not resulting in a live birth was 29.7% for those who continued the medication versus 27.1% for those who stopped.
Now, after statistical adjustments, the researchers noted this wasn't definitive, causal proof of a higher risk associated with continuing the drug.
Okay.
And for the live births, continuing the medication wasn't conclusively linked to major congenital abnormalities.
Right, but the sources immediately throw a wet blanket on that reassurance.
They do.
Because they emphasize that the statistical margins were still too wide to completely rule out clinically important risks. Basically, rare birth defects require massive sample sizes to spot, so 3,500 pregnancies just aren't enough to give a definitive green light.
Exactly. It's too small of a pool to know for sure.
But then a second study introduces a massive twist. They looked at overweight or obese women using GLP-1s, comparing those who used them before and during pregnancy against non-users.
Right.
And yes, the users had higher overall risks, but the researchers proposed a really fascinating explanation for why that was happening.
And this raises an incredibly important question about causality in maternal health. Are the unfavorable outcomes caused by the GLP-1 molecule itself crossing the placenta and directly harming the developing fetus? Or is something else happening to the maternal environment?
And here's where it gets really interesting. The researchers suggest the real danger might not be the drug reaching the baby at all.
Right.
The danger might actually be the metabolic crash that happens when the mother abruptly stops taking the drug.
The withdrawal effect.
Exactly. We're talking about rapid weight regain, massive spikes in blood sugar, skyrocketing blood pressure, and severe insulin resistance. All of those cascading metabolic conditions are known to be incredibly toxic to a developing placenta.
Highly toxic, yes.
So this sounds like a terrifying catch-22 for a pregnant woman. I mean, doctors have traditionally said stop taking the drug to protect the baby.
Right.
But this new data suggests that stopping the drug causes a metabolic rebound that directly harms the baby. What on earth is a patient supposed to do in that situation?
It is the absolute definition of a clinical catch-22.
Yeah.
It highlights why individualized, heavily monitored medicine is paramount. The absolute worst course of action is abrupt discontinuation without a medical safety net.
So you can't just quit cold turkey.
No. A patient attempting to conceive, or who finds out they are newly pregnant, they must consult their prescribing clinician alongside an obstetric specialist immediately.
That makes sense.
You cannot simply stop a drug that is artificially regulating your entire metabolic baseline and expect your body to seamlessly take over. If you have underlying diabetes or severe metabolic disease, the shock to the maternal system upon withdrawal is profound, and the fetus bears the brunt of that instability.
Wow. It's just such a delicate balancing act. And just to give a complete picture on the fertility front, the sources also touched on male fertility, which thankfully has a slightly more optimistic tone.
Yes, much more optimistic.
Based on reports from the Indio 2026 conference, early evidence suggests GLP-1s don't seem to damage male reproductive function. In fact, they might actually help boost testosterone and sperm counts.
They do, but the mechanism of how they help is important to distinguish here. GLP-1s are not magical fertility boosters acting directly on the testicles.
Right.
What's happening is that obesity and severe insulin resistance are known to drastically reduce testosterone levels and interfere with normal sperm production.
Oh, so it's a secondary effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By utilizing a GLP-1 to achieve significant weight loss and improve metabolic function, these men are indirectly boosting their reproductive health. The drug is simply removing the metabolic roadblocks like excess adipose tissue that were hindering normal function.
Right. It's clearing the traffic jam so the system can run normally.
That's a great way to look at it.
Though the sources do caution that we still need larger controlled studies to figure out if these improvements are consistent long-term. And critically, whether the drugs affect sperm DNA integrity.
Yes, the DNA integrity is key.
Because just because you have more sperm doesn't necessarily mean the DNA inside them is pristine. So guys shouldn't just assume it's a magic fix without talking to a specialist.
Right. Cautious observation and specialized guidance remain the rule across all aspects of reproductive health and GLP-1 use.
Okay, so whether you are trying to build a baby or just trying to build a healthier body for yourself, there is one fundamental physical concern we have to address before we wrap up.
The muscle mass debate.
Yes, the structural health of the body. What exactly is being lost along with the fat?
The loss of lean body mass has become a really central point of contention lately. Look, losing weight means losing some muscle. That's just basic biology. Your body is smaller, it is carrying a lighter load, so it doesn't need as much muscle to move around. Plus, in a steep caloric deficit, the body will inevitably consume some muscle tissue for energy alongside the fat.
Right, but the debate is whether GLP-1s are causing disproportionate muscle loss compared to traditional dieting. Like, are they eating away more muscle than they should?
That's the question.
The sources mentioned a huge caveat in how this is measured, though.
Yeah.
Because if studies don't properly account for the total absolute amount of weight lost, the decline in muscle can look artificially severe on a percentage basis.
Precisely. If you lose 100 pounds on a GLP-1, the absolute amount of muscle lost will naturally be higher than if you lost 10 pounds on a traditional diet.
Because it's just more weight overall.
Right. You have to contextualize the lean mass lost against the total mass lost. However, the sheer speed of the weight loss on these drugs means the medical community is taking the potential for rapid muscle degradation very seriously.
And it's driving some incredible new biological interventions, like this study in Nature Medicine.
Yes, the myostatin research.
Yeah. Researchers are now looking at an antibody that targets a specific protein called myostatin. To me, using a GLP-1 without protecting your muscle mass is kind of like putting a high-performance sports car on a strict fuel limit.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So eventually, the body starts stripping down its own engine, the muscle, just to keep the chassis moving.
Yes.
Myostatin is basically the biological mechanic that normally prevents the engine from getting too big. So blocking it forces the body to keep the engine completely intact while it burns off the extra weight in the trunk instead.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your sports car analogy really illustrates the ultimate goal of modern metabolic therapy. We are not just trying to make the car lighter, we are trying to ensure the engine remains powerful and the chassis' structural integrity remains strong.
Exactly.
At a cellular level, myostatin acts as a brake on muscle growth. By introducing an antibody that binds to and neutralizes myostatin, Researchers are effectively taking their foot off that brake. It signals the body to preserve and even build lean tissue, despite the severe caloric deficit caused by the GLP-1.
That is amazing.
But I have to stress, this antibody is still an emerging experimental strategy. It is not something patients can or should try to seek out right now.
Right. Don't go looking for gray market myostatin online either.
Please don't.
So what are the practical takeaways for the listener who might be on one of these medications right now or is considering it? If you're listening to this and wondering how to protect your own engine without waiting for an experimental antibody, what is the protocol?
The foundational pillars of muscle preservation are crucial here. Patients really need to consume adequate, high-quality protein to give their bodies the necessary building blocks.
Eat your protein.
Eat your protein. And they must perform regular resistance exercise to neurologically signal to the body that the muscle is still actively required for survival.
You have to use it so you don't lose it.
Exactly. They should avoid excessively rapid weight loss when possible, as steeper, sudden caloric deficits tend to cannibalize more muscle. And critically, they need to proactively monitor their physical strength and function over time.
Especially as they age.
This is exceptionally vital for older adults. The loss of muscle mass isn't just about aesthetics. It can quickly lead to physical frailty, falls, and a total loss of independence.
It really emphasizes that this isn't a passive process.
Not at all.
You don't just take the shot and wait for the software update to install. You have to actively manage the biological reconstruction that's happening inside of you.
The drug is a tool, not a cure-all. The patient's lifestyle provides the blueprint for how that tool reshapes the body.
So bringing all of this together, the core message of this deep dive is kind of unavoidable. GLP-1 medications are rewriting the medical rulebook entirely.
They absolutely are.
They are undeniably powerful tools, but they are doing far, far more than diabetes and obesity care. The ripple effects are traveling through our neurological pathways. They're altering our compulsive behaviors.
Yeah.
They are impacting our reproductive systems, the viability of our offspring, and the very physical, structural composition of our muscles.
And as we navigate this paradigm shift, particularly in an era of relentless information overload and gray market temptation, the greatest tool any listener has is critical thinking.
So true.
We must constantly separate what is merely available online from what is genuinely safe, and distinguish between what early data suggests is promising and what rigorous peer-reviewed science has proven to be factual.
So what does this all mean? I want to leave you with a thought that builds on what we discussed regarding pregnancy.
Okay.
We talked about how the real danger to a pregnant woman might not necessarily be the drug itself, but the massive metabolic crash.
Right, the withdrawal.
The rapid weight regain, the blood pressure spikes, the insulin resistance that happens when the artificial GLP-1 signal is abruptly removed. If that physiological rebound is that severe, what does that mean for the general population?
That is a scary thought.
Right. What happens to the millions of people who eventually have to come off these medications, not because they want to, but for financial reasons?
Yeah.
Or because their insurance suddenly cuts them off, or due to other unexpected medical complications? Are we inadvertently creating a massive population that is permanently biochemically tethered to these drugs just to maintain a baseline metabolism?
It's a question we really need to answer soon.
Just a little something to ponder as you watch the pharmaceutical commercials roll by. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking for the hidden features in your own software, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.